All right, what is going on YouTube? Welcome back to a brand new video. This one's gonna be a little bit less ecom business, but it is gonna be very tactical. Although it is February, it is never too late to start setting goals because you can measure goals on not just an annual basis, but a quarterly basis, monthly, weekly, even daily. And knowing how to set goals is really important because I didn't know how to set goals in the past, and it would always become a very overwhelming and a daunting task. Now it has become a lot more simple. It's become measurable, and it's been something that actually helps me stay motivated on a day-to-day basis. When you have achieved a lot of the things that you've wanted to in the past, sometimes you get a little bit complacent. At least I have, and I'm not gonna speak on behalf of you. What I find is when I'm not motivated, or when I might be even lacking discipline, referring to my goals is the single best way for me to get amped up, fired up, because I can actually visualize what it would look like if I achieved my potential. And it's not even my fullest potential. It's just like these things are so within reach because I've documented out very clear steps as to kind of how to get there, or at least increase the probability that I do achieve those goals. And when I do it in this specific way, it makes me realize how achievable it is. And I can visualize how much better my life would be if I were to stick to the inputs, if I were to do what it is that I know that I'm capable of doing, right? So this is just a quick video on hopefully a helpful way that you can go ahead and set your goals and also reflect on previous years, which I'll get to in a second. So by the way, if you want a copy of this so that you can do it yourself, just DM me the word goals on Instagram and I'll send it over to you. You can duplicate this, change it up how you want so that it best serves you. So let's get started with reflection. I find the easiest way to kind of look back on a previous year, previous quarter, previous month is to actually go through my camera roll. It's not always the most practical way to go about it. I don't take enough pictures and videos as much as I need to and I should, and then my team gets on me about taking, but it's kind of easy to get a bird's eye view of what was going on, at least partially based on your camera roll. So I would do a quick camera roll audit, look back, grab some highlights, things of that nature, and just start dumping things that stood out to you, whether they're positive or negative, right? Try to really reflect, how did I evolve from January to December? And you could do this on a more frequent basis. We're just talking 2026, more macro here. What were some highlights? What were some scars or lows? And what were the 3 biggest lessons that you learned and that you want to carry into 2026? Or what are the biggest lessons you learned from last quarter that you want to carry into the next one that you don't want to forget? Because it's really easy to forget things that occurred because there's so many things that are happening at all given times that you want to dial in on specific ones that you want to carry with you that you don't want to forget. And if you write it down, and if you really reflect on it, you're more likely to actually learn and to grow from those moments instead of just kind of forget them and brush them off and leave them in the past. Second thing is pattern recognition, right? And before I even move on to this, I added this little thing that says pain plus reflection equals progress. There's a book by Ray Dalio, his many principles, life and work principles. And this is like a common theme within the book and almost like a definition of progress. And so whether it could be pain, it could also be positive experiences, but if you don't process that and reflect, then it's very difficult to have any sense of an argument that you've made progress in any window or any period of time. Pattern recognition. What are some things we want to double down on? What are some things we want to avoid? Where was your energy the highest? When was your energy the lowest? So just like we have something like a time audit, right? Where did I allocate my time last year that I might want to do differently, or last quarter that I might want to do differently moving forward to increase the probability that I hit my goals, to increase the probability that I have, that I show up the best for myself, my family, etc. You could do an energy audit, right? A mini one. You don't have to go crazy in depth with these things. The whole point is to make this simple and easy to go through. When did I feel most fulfilled? When was my energy the highest? When I was producing, when I was absorbing, sitting on the couch, whatever. Acknowledge it. Recognize those patterns. Vision board. It's kind of optional, right? It's a little bit woo-woo-y, but at the end of the day, you have to be able to visualize something to know where you're going, right? Like if you can't visualize it, if you can't see it, if you don't know where you're going and you can't describe it in painstaking detail, the likelihood that you get there is gonna be a lot lower. This takes 15 minutes, 20 minutes. You can open up a Canva template, just start throwing up images and just look at it as frequently as you can. Some people set it as their wallpaper. Some people print it out, put it on a big board, put it in their room, put it on their mirror so that it's something that they see and they get exposed to on a frequent basis. I don't have to say that I believe or I don't believe in manifestation or this or that, but what I can say is that I have had things on my vision boards that have become a reality of mine, whether or not it's because it's constantly in my subconscious or because I was exposed to it and I was able to visually articulate what it is that I was working towards. I don't care what the reason is, it worked for me, and I know many people that it does work for, so I would suggest it. If you want to skip it, totally on you. Now, 2026 goals. How do you actually how do you write them down? How do you articulate them? How do you simplify them so that you're not how do you chunk up so that there's not a big laundry list of 100 different things that you want to achieve, people you want to meet, places you want to go, etc. I like chunking up into 1 to 3 things, and pretty much each of these core categories. There's people, right? Who do I want to spend time with? Who do I want to serve better? Build with, learn from, etc. Who do I want to meet in person that I might have been learning from or been exposed to online, and it's a totally different experience being with people in person than digitally. Travel, right? Where do I want to go? How long? When? Who do I want to go with? Things of that nature. I think I wouldn't say that this is any particular order of things that I prioritize versus I don't, but there's a lot of these categories you want to prioritize, I want to say equally, or maybe some more than others. But I think at the end of the day, at least my goal is to be able to do what I want, where I want, with who I want. You have to learn to enjoy the work that you do because you're going to be spending a lot of time doing it. So that's definitely part of the equation. But I think the doing what, with who, where, I think those are the important things that I would want to prioritize and that I would suggest that you prioritize. And obviously the ability to do that comes from your work and ideally finding some sense of meaning in your work, because then you don't have to be disciplined or motivated to get that stuff done. It's just something that you genuinely can find some sense of enjoyment in, and you don't have to be super disciplined, right? Like when people say, oh, I'm so disciplined, I get up and go to the gym at 5 o'clock in the morning, you can very strongly argue that that's not a disciplined person. It's just something that they enjoy doing. So it's not that difficult to build up this sense of, willpower, because it's something that you actually somewhat look forward to. Not the entire process, right? Not maybe the cold, wet drive during the morning, but you know that where you're going is something that you're going to enjoy to some degree. And so whether it's finding meaning in the work or finding meaning from, these micro milestones that you get after a period of maybe deep work or shallow work, however you look at it, I think is really important. Again, we have people, we have travel, we have experiences. What do I want to do that I've never done before? Again, I would chunk up to 1 to 3. If you want to have more in certain categories, that's fine. Just know that the fewer things that you have, the more likely that you're going to achieve each of them individually, right? As common sense would say. Health, what do I want my body to be capable of? Not just that, but for a lot of these things, it might be what do I want to stop doing in these categories? Who do I want to stop surrounding myself or spending time with because they might be rubbing off on me in a negative way? Things do I want to get rid of within my life or reduce exposing myself to because I think it's going to have a net gain? And I think that just as many things as we want to do, we need to find all of the things that we want to stop doing that are getting in the way of what it is that we genuinely want to achieve, what we want to do, the people we want to meet, the experiences we want to have, places we want to go, etc. Wealth, what do I want my finances to look like? Now, keep in mind, these are kind of outcomes, but they still should be measurable in the sense of did I achieve this? Did I not achieve this? If we say travel, we want to say, we don't have to say the specific dates or the specific Airbnb that we want to stay in or have everything perfectly planned out, but we might want to say a general quarter or month or season, a specific place, maybe a minimum time duration, right? Or a range. And we want to be able to say at the end of the year, I did that or I didn't do that, right? So that it's relatively black and white, right? Wealth, right? Work. What do I want to create? What do I want to launch? What do I want to build? What do I want to start that I've been procrastinating on? Or what do I want to lean in on that I might have already started, which is arguably the hardest thing in almost anything is those first few steps that I've been procrastinating the continuation or the consistent pursuit of, right? Where we have to get back in the grind, in the trenches, and the rhythm of things. And I don't just mean this from a business perspective, right? I mean this in anything. You hit the gym first 2 weeks of January, you were off to a rock solid start, and you haven't been since January 15th, and it's been over 2 weeks. Let's get back on track. And I actually think that the timing of this video is quite timely because this is around the time where people stop their New Year's resolutions, where they find themselves falling off track. And it's when you really need to like anchor down, double down and say, this year is going to be different. It's not when I'm going to let my feet slip out from under me, right? And then lastly, what are the top 3 non-negotiables, right? So of everything that we documented above, that we wrote out, what 3 things must happen to make it a good year, right? What are the 3 things we're prioritizing? And that's what you really want to lean in on, and at least like front load, right? Now, if it's a trip during a specific time of the year and it's later in the year, that's one thing, but you really want to front load and put the effort into achieving those things. Now, here's where most people get it wrong. They map out all the goals and then they kind of do nothing with them, right? But like a goal without a series of inputs or action items that you can take or behaviors that you have to undergo, embody, execute, etc., are dreams. We don't want to create dreams. We want to create goals where there is a clear set of principles that we can follow, action items, behaviors, etc., that will increase the probability. It will almost never guarantee, but it will almost always increase the probability of achieving those goals. And that's where the inputs come in. Now, I've just segmented it as a template for you to segment it based on more so personal things versus business things. And some inputs will help you achieve multiple outputs or goals. And on the flip side, you might have one goal that may require multiple inputs. So it's not going to be a perfect like 1-for-1, but you want to start going down the list of what your goals are and then asking yourself or asking AI, if your brain can't handle it because of the dependency that humans have on AI these days, like what is one input that I can control that basically at the end of the year, I can say, hey, I did this input, that was a black and white, and I did it independent of the outcome. So, for example, if I wanted to meet a specific person that I've been learning from online, that I've been, so grateful to have the opportunity to learn from, and I think that I would just have a blast with them in person, I think we would get along, this, that, and the third, whatever, then I might want to reach out to them via email, via social media. I might want to offer if I could take them out to dinner and things of that nature. And whatever those specific inputs look like that are going to increase the probability of you actually achieving that goal, you write those down, you stick to them, right? And by having that list of inputs, it actually gives you something to constantly work towards. So like when I see people that aren't motivated, I think it's just because they don't have a clear set of action items that they're working towards that like they know is going to increase the probability of getting an outcome. They just feel like they're doing something just to do something, and they're not confident that it's actually going to lead to anything meaningful for them. That's where I see a lack of motivation coming from. So when you can in great detail say, here are 3 things that are going to significantly increase the probability of this thing becoming a reality for me this year, this quarter, whatever, and you do those things and you could check off those boxes, that is the accomplishment, not getting the outcome. Following the inputs, doing what you say you're going to do, that's the goal. Achieving whatever outcome it is that comes from that's just the cherry on top. That's the icing on the cake. But you want to reward yourself and you want to train yourself to reward the behaviors and the actions that are going to increase the probability of getting to the outcomes. Because there's a lot of things that are semi out of our control that we just don't want to get hung up on what exactly happens on the other side, right? So what does that actually look like? So what I like to do is segment it by, there's a lot of different ways that you can go about it, but on a personal side, I like to look at it from an identity perspective. So you kind of have like a personal thesis, right? Like what do I want the theme of this year to be? Who is the person I want to become? Because ultimately, if you want to achieve things that you've never achieved, you have to become a person that you've never been before, right? And that takes some sense of either identity shift, or you might have been saying one thing, right? Like you speak words over yourself, or you say that you're X type of person, but you haven't embodied those actual characteristics or traits. So this might just be doubling down on identity that you've always had, but that you haven't actually like acted, right? And you haven't actually lived. You haven't truly embodied that identity, right? So this could be discipline. There's so many different things that this can become. And by the way, you could skip this if you want. I wouldn't, right? I would just say, who is the person that I want to become? And you can even put in a quote here that says, I will repeat this to myself every day. And this will kind of assume and strengthen that identity. You could think of it as an affirmation as you want, if you want, right? But it's just something that is going to serve you, right? So just like thinking positive thoughts are going to serve you and trying to avoid thinking negative thoughts is also going to serve you. Being able to assume the identity of the individual that is capable of following a certain series of inputs to increase the likelihood of getting these outcomes, but more importantly, do the inputs regardless of the outcomes. That's the identity you want to assume, essentially. And then from an inputs perspective, you're basically taking all of these goals that you had here and you're saying, okay, what is this going to require me from a work perspective, from a habits perspective, health, fitness, whatever that looks like. This is just kind of a list of examples and just chunking those up to as few things that you can kind of trace back to, again, an increase in probability of hitting those goals that we just set together. And if you want to segment this personal business, if you want to combine them all together, totally up to you. I try not to associate my worth with my businesses. I try to kind of disassociate those things, right? I am an individual looking to achieve certain goals. I happen to own a business. I happen to make executive decisions for that business that do have certain consequences, and it may impact me emotionally in some instances, but I try not to have that be the thing that I identify with, right? So, you know, when you meet someone, you say, oh, what do you do for work? I hate that shit. You take work out of the equation. It's like, the question should be, oh, like, who are you? Not what do you do, right? Who are you? It's just that everyone has been so accustomed and trained that like, that's the thing that you associate yourself with, is like what you do professionally. I think that's bullshit, right? I think that you need to learn to disassociate yourself from things that you may own or make decisions on behalf of, whether they do well or they don't do well. That doesn't necessarily reflect like who you are as a person or how you want others to be, speaking of you or remembering you by, or whatever that looks like. Rather than an identity, you have kind of a thesis for the business, right? What's the goal? What's the objective for the year, et cetera? And then you might have specific inputs that are, again, associated with the goals that you have here that might be more business related, financial related, et cetera. Which if you're watching this video, you know that I'm all about e-commerce and online businesses and things of that nature, making money online, having time freedom, financial freedom, providing for the people that you care about, doing the things that you like with the people that you like, in the places that you like, during the times that you like, right? Or that other people might not like because they're doing things they don't want to do. And that's what it's all about. So that's pretty much it. This stuff, if you think it's a little bit more woo-woo, or really these three, cool. But really try to just articulate your goals. I find it easier to subcategorize it by those categories that we have. And if you want to add like a bonus one that doesn't really quite fit in any of those, that's totally fine. If you have spiritual goals or whatever that looks like, cool. Write down the inputs. Most important thing, right? And when you chunk them up, then it makes it significantly easier to hit these, because you're not saying, hey, I want to get a 6-pack and then leaving it at that. You're saying, I want a 6-pack, and in order to increase the probability of doing that, I am going to eliminate snacking altogether. So I'm only going to have full meals. I am going to start tracking my calories, and I'm going to do some type of weight-based training or go to the gym at least 4 times per week, right? Those are the inputs. Without the inputs, you have this dream of getting a 6-pack and no clear and measurable way of actually getting there, right? So I hope that makes sense. I hope this helps you. I hope it serves you and you actually put it into practice, because the last thing I want is for you to like get all excited about all these things that you're going to be listing out and having something that you're actually able to work towards, and having a framework in which you can articulate what it is that you need to do to increase the probability of getting to where you want. But the reality is, if you watch all this and you don't actually take action, you don't execute it, just like absorbing e-commerce information and not applying it to your very own business, then you effectively will not have learned anything from this video. And I would not like that. I would prefer that you actually take this, you roll with it, you execute it, and you report back how it served you. And again, you could do this literally for February, you do this for March, you could do this for Q1 still, even though we're basically almost halfway into it by the time you're probably already watching this video. You can do it for Q2, etc. And then basically at the end of every quarter, month, however frequently you're kind of tracking these things. I think monthly can get a little bit aggressive because you might have big and lofty goals, which I highly recommend setting. You might have to course correct on a quarter-to-quarter basis, right? So you can have a macro yearly goal, and then you can have these kind of micro quarterly, and then reflect at the end of the quarter, say how how can I course correct, or where did I maybe set goals that were too conservative that I absolutely crushed through, in which I also have to course correct and adjust for kind of future goal setting. So I hope that makes sense. I hope this serves you. Again, if you want a copy of this so that you can kind of add the things that it is that you want to and that you're specifically working towards and kind of make your own thing, then you can send me a DM on Instagram. Just DM me the word goals or goal, either of those two, and I'll send it over to you. You'll be able to come over here, make a duplicate of it, copy it into your Notion, completely free. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope to see you in the next video. Thank you. Peace.